Hey guys, it's the Brown Bag Talking Sports here again to talk about the New Orleans Saints. This time I'll be discussing our Week 3 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, which we won 33 to 27. So, without further ado, let's get into it. After last game, there was a lot of questions about Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of Saints fans called him trash. A lot of people in the media wasn't insulting him, but they said that the Saints season was over without Drew Brees, period. And I mean, I wouldn't blame Teddy for taking that as an insult, but it wasn't a direct insult. It's just like they couldn't see it going any other way. I feel like I'm one of the few Saints fans that actually had a little faith in Teddy. Now, I will admit, I didn't expect him to do this good, and I will admit that I can understand some of the backlash that he had for last game. But to be fair to Teddy, like I brung up in my last recap, he started in a game that was originally game planned for Drew Brees to play. And for him to be thrown out there suddenly, it wasn't that much of a surprise that the offense wasn't in sync. I also said in my last recap, I wanted to give him a fair shot in a game where we game planned for his limits and what he can do. A lot of people weren't giving him a chance. A lot of people were writing him off, and a lot of people were saying, start Taysom Hill. I never thought we should have done that. I thought that was a total overreaction. I think at the very most, we should have, before the game, not now, obviously, but before the game, I think at the very most, we should have done it like we did in preseason. Like, we start Teddy, and if he's not doing good, maybe we do Taysom Hill. I don't know about that strategy either, but I could at least see that. But a lot of people were calling for Taysom Hill to start because Teddy didn't look so good last game. But I'll tell you what, Teddy shut him up this game. He shut all those haters up. Teddy wasn't throwing deep. He wasn't he didn't look like Aaron Rodgers. He didn't look like Drew Brees, but Teddy played his game. He was smart with the ball. He made some really good passes, and he never turned the ball over. And realistically, from a backup QB, what more can you ask for? Especially going into Seattle on the road. This was a great performance. Right after the game, I was a lot more enthused with how Kamara played. I mean, I was happy with how Bridgewater played as well, but I was a lot more happy with Kamara's production. And trust me, we'll get into him a little later. But for Teddy Bridgewater, for his first start in almost a whole year now, his first start in a while on the road in Seattle, I mean, this was a good day from him. He was 19 for 27. He had 177 yards, and he had 2 passing touchdowns. Now, like I said, they weren't the most flashy of passing touchdowns. One of them was a screen to Alvin Kamara that was 20 yards. But another one to Michael Thomas, that was a really good play. It was 4th down, and he threw a quick pass to Thomas, and Thomas got in the end zone. Teddy needs to play the game that he's comfortable with. He doesn't need to be forced to be like a Drew Brees, because he's not. We don't need that. Right now, we have Teddy Bridgewater, and he didn't have a flashy game. It wasn't perfect. There were a few passes that were questionable, but for the most part, he played a pretty smart game, and I'm satisfied with that. Besides Alvin Kamara, there isn't much really to say in the receiving department. Michael Thomas had a pretty decent day. He had 5 receptions for 54 yards, so all of his catches were pretty big time, but a catch that stands out mostly to me was, it was 4th and goal. I mentioned it previously. It was 4th down, and we were in the red zone, but we weren't getting in. And it was 4th down, and Sean Payton decided to go for it. And Teddy Bridgewater, like I previously said, threw a quick pass to Michael Thomas, and it was a really nice catch by Michael Thomas. It might look simple right then and there, but the intensity of that game, like being on the road in Seattle, if you mess up a little bit, if you give the Seahawks any type of momentum, they're gonna run with it in that stadium. And for our offense to keep that same intensity, it was really impressive. And Michael Thomas didn't really have a super explosive day, but I was overall satisfied with his performance that day. But the main driving force behind the offense this game was Alvin Kamara. Kamara finished with 69 yards off of 16 carries, which is the highest that anybody's ever rushed on Seattle's rushing defense this year. So far, anyway. I was pretty sure Kamara wasn't going to run all over the Seahawks because these past two games, the Seahawks rushing defense has been phenomenal. I mean, you look at the stats against the Steelers and the Bengals, the Steelers especially, because they just rolled up into Pittsburgh and stopped James Conner, who had a pretty decent year last year. Even though it doesn't look like a lot, in the game it felt like a lot. Especially when you add that on top of the 92 yards he had off of 9 receptions. Alvin Kamara really came through big time this game. It was just amazing to watch. Like there was this 1st and 17 play where we were backed up obviously 17 yards from the first down. Alvin Kamara got the ball off of a screen pass. He ran into some blockers. He stayed there for a little bit and then ran the other way. He cut back inside to get the first down. It was just a masterful performance by him. We're definitely going to need that in these upcoming games, but for now, good job, Kamara. Good job. To talk about the special teams for a second, Deonte Harris had a pretty decent day. There was a little fumble that happened later in the game, but to focus on his good stuff, he got the first points of the game. He got the first touchdown of the game, and it was a really good punt return. He ran it all the way back for 53 yards. And the last person of special teams I'll be talking about is Morstead, our punter. There were a few punts in this game that were really good. One punt that I really liked in particular was at the beginning of the second quarter. He kicked it all the way from our 34-yard line to the Seahawks' 2-yard line. That was just a really great play. And in this game where we needed the defense to step up and stop Russell Wilson every chance they got, this was a quality punting performance. And I don't want to undersell our punter because he's a part of the team too, but usually there's just not much to talk about with the punter, and I don't really know much about the stats or how to explain the stats with the punter, so I usually just don't bring it up. But yeah, this was a good performance by him, and I'm sure our defense is really thankful for his performance that day. But finally, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the defense, because holy crap, the defense played out of their mind. To come into Seattle and make the Seahawks score only 7 points the entire first half is phenomenal. That's really impressive, but to not only have them score just 7 points, but to return a fumble all the way back for a defensive touchdown, that was just amazing. I mean, I can't even, holy crap, that was just, I can't give our defense enough credit for that, because that swayed the momentum so heavily in the game, because on that same play, I think his name was Carson, the Seahawks running back, but yeah, he got a really big gain. He even got a first down and some yards after that, and a few of our defenders came to tackle him, and as he was going to the ground, Eli Apple punched the ball out of the running back's hand, and Von Bell scooped it up and took it all the way to the house. Like that was a play that the Seahawks could have got massive momentum, but since we were smart enough, since Eli Apple was smart enough and had the defensive awareness to take the opportunity to punch the ball out of the Seahawk running back's hand, that was just, it turned the game around. It turned the game around in our favor, and we need plays like that because our offense is gonna have some much rough patches. Like earlier in the game, the offensive line they were doing a pretty good job blocking for Bridgewater, but earlier in the game they were getting penalties after penalties, and it got a little ridiculous. Like we were backed up to like third and 20, third and 21. It was something crazy like that, but thankfully they got it together. But things like that will happen from time to time because we're not in sync. This is the first week in a long while since Breeze has been out. The timing is just not going to be in sync automatically. So we need plays like that moving forward. I know a lot of people rag on Eli Apple, and rightfully so at times, rightfully so. But he makes some pretty good plays as well. And this week he happened to make a really, really good play. Like this was a game. I don't want to say this was a game-winning play, but in a sense, yeah, because momentum is so important in Seattle. Like I said before, if Seattle senses a bit of momentum, if that crowd senses a bit of momentum, the Seahawks are going to run with it. The crowd is going to get loud, and it's going to be impossible to win. They don't call the crowd the 12th man for no reason. Those guys are loud, and they have a lot of passion for their team. But that play shut them up for us, and yeah, that was a really big play. And also, thank you to the officiating crew for not blowing the play dead this time. Thank you for letting it play out and reviewing it and actually seeing whether or not or the play was actually dead. Thank you, referees. I could actually see the refs possibly blowing that play dead because it was really close on the replay, but thankfully the ref didn't blow it dead and he made the right call. So thanks to the officiating crew. To get back to talking about the defense, another time the defense came up big was late in the third quarter. They forced Seattle to punt, but we gave it right back to them because of the Deonte Harris fumble. Yeah, I saw this moment in the game, and I just wanted to, I just wanted to cry, man. That was so dumb. You can't do that, man. I can't give you a pass just because you're a rookie. You can't make this a habit. Thankfully, we won the game, but you can't do that, man. You can't do that. Harris fumbled the ball. Seattle was driving down the field. You could sense the momentum shifting. Seattle was absolutely carving up the defense, but when they were in the red zone, they weren't able to convert a 3rd and 6. And since they were down by like 20 points, they had to go for it. So they went for it on 4th down. Lockett was not wide open, but he had a good amount of separation from his defenders. Like Tyler Lockett is one of those players, if he has a decent amount of separation, it's basically a guarantee that he's going to catch that ball down. He was in the end zone for an open touchdown, but our D-line made the pocket collapse, and Wilson had to force up a really high ball, and Lockett tried his hardest to come down with it, but it was just too far out of his reach, and you could see the frustration on Wilson's face because Lockett was going to catch that. Lockett was going to reel that in, but he didn't have a chance. The defensive line really came through big in that play. We sent five to rush Wilson, and it worked. We took a little gamble, and it worked. I know the Seahawks were down by 20 at that point, but like I keep saying, like I've said before, and like I'll keep saying, in this stadium in Seattle, if you give the Seahawks any amount of momentum, they'll run with it. And especially since their possession was off of a fumble by our special teams, that got the crowd roaring. Unless if you saw the game, you couldn't imagine it, man. Imagine that. Like, if they got 7 before the third quarter ended, that would have been. That could have. I mean, I'd like to think that our team could have handled it, but I don't know, man. I just don't know, and I'm glad I don't know because I don't want to find out. Not that way. I said this in my initial reaction to the game, but before this game, the Seahawks had a crazy record. I'm assuming it's from the Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson era of Seattle, but in September at home, they're undefeated. They're 15-0. Like that's a crazy record, but now they're 15-1. So we came in here and against all odds, we won, and I'm really proud of them for that. I'm really proud of my team for that. This was a statement win, and we can't get too hyped on this win. It was a great win, but we have to move on towards Dallas because Dallas is on a bit of a hot streak. They're 3-0. We can't sleep on them. We gotta move on. We got a game plan towards them because they have, as we found out last year, they have a legit defense. But yeah, I thought our ceiling would be like 500 throughout this 6-week stretch. I thought we'd win at most 3 games, and that's the most we need to win. But honestly, the way the team performed today, well, not today, but the way the team performed Sunday, it convinced me that we could possibly win all these 6 games. Like, we could win 4 out of 6 or 5 out of 6. Like, this was a legit win. This wasn't a fluke. That we weren't lucky. For the most part, Seattle's guys were pretty healthy. Yeah, man. This was a great win, and like I said, we can't get too focused on this. We gotta move on to Dallas, but yeah, this was a really great performance by us, and I'm really confident in this team moving forward. I thought this game would be hard enough with Breeze still in here, but we don't even have Breeze, and for the majority of the game, we were up by like 10. Like, Seattle got a few garbage points at the end, but we were dominating, man. Our defense is real, and we're gonna have a test against. We're gonna have a true test against Dallas. Not that this wasn't a true test, but that'll be even more of a test. I mean, they got Ezekiel Elliott. They paid him finally, and Dak's been looking better. So we'll see what happens. But I think we can get it. I think we can win it. But yeah, for now, great win, guys. Great win. But that's gonna pretty much do it for me. So leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, Brown Bags signing out. Great win today, guys. Well, not today. I keep saying today. Why did I say today? I mean Sunday. Great win Sunday, guys. Great win Sunday. Now let's go and get this win against Dallas.